Hello and welcome everyone to today's Fairy God Boss live webinar. We are so excited to have you all join us. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to connect. And while we're waiting, I would love to know where everyone is tuning in from today. So you'll see on the right side of your screen, there is a chat box. If you feel comfortable doing so, please send a message in the chat saying hello and let us know where you're joining from. And I see we have folks from Topeka, Kansas, Seattle, Portland, Phoenix. Love to see it. Amazing. Keep it coming. I'll go ahead and get started. Just to introduce myself, my name is Caitlin Monahan. I am a senior account manager with the Muse and Fairy God Boss. And a few housekeeping announcements while everyone is tuning in. This session will be recorded and shared via email with all registrants. And during this discussion, we really want to hear from you. So please use that chat section on the right of your screen, send messages, comments, and then you can also use the Q&A tab to send questions to our lovely panelists. We will be taking audience questions during this webinar. Amazing. Eagan, New Jersey, or Jersey City, New Jersey. Amazing. All right. And I'm going to kick off today's event by saying, welcoming our panelists and announcing that this session is called Innovate, Impact, and Inspire, Women Shaping the Future of Tech, and it is sponsored by Thomson Reuters. For those who do not know, this is hosted by Fairy God Boss. Fairy God Boss is the largest online career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairy God Boss for career connections, job, community advice, and hard to find intel about how companies treat women, plus virtual events and community like this one. So I am so excited to be joined by two phenomenal leaders at Thomson Reuters today. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. I'm joined by Grace Lee and Hella Hoffman. Would you each take a minute to introduce yourselves? I'd love to hear what's going on in your life personally and professionally and what you do in your role today at Thomson Reuters. So Grace, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Grace Lee, a lead scientist at TR Labs. I'm based in London, UK. And I joined TR Labs 3 years ago. Actually, tomorrow is my work 3-year anniversary, actually. And since joining TR Labs, I've been developing contract drafting solution for multiple TR's products. And also, outside of work, I spend most of my free time training myself to become a better table tennis player with my coach. Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm excited for today's conversation.
Great to have you. Hella, how about you?
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Hella Hoffman. I'm a manager of applied research at Thomson Reuters Labs. I'm also in the legal sector segment, so I look after our corporate customers mainly. So looking at how we can support in-house legal counsel at big corporations to work more effectively. And so I manage a small team at Thomson Reuters Labs of scientists, I look at, I influence kind of AI strategy, help scope solutions, define, how we approach stuff. And then in my free time, I have a 1.5-year-old daughter who keeps me busy. But if I have some free time, I love to play squash and geek out on lots of board games.
I love it. So glad to have you. Thank you both for sharing. And I love your what you do in your free time. Very active. So for my first question, I would love to dive into your backgrounds more. So please, each of you, if you could tell us your background and how you got into your current role at TR Labs. Grace, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so my background is a little bit coming more from an academic background. So I've been always passionate about solving a real world and practical problem. So when it was a time to choose or decide a topic for my PhD study, I decided to solve the search problem or information retrieval problem that medical doctors are going through in their day-to-day work at a hospital. So I found the process of working directly with doctors and also the process of making a real impact on people's life was very exciting, and also at the same time it was very rewarding. So, and also during my PhD, I attended one machine learning conference, and I met one of former TR Labs colleague, and that's when I first heard and also learned about Labs work. And TR Lab is solving a real world problem for lawyers. So that really immediately resonated with me. I really wanted to be part of it. So since I joined TR Labs, I've been solving a complex legal problem while working directly with TR's internal lawyers and editors.
Amazing. And how about you, Hella?
Yeah, for me, I similar to Grace, I did a bunch of work in academia, and then I basically was actually there was a project I was on that was sponsored by TIA, so we were already working with TIA around solving problems around knowledge graph cleaning and understanding when there's issue in knowledge and data. And yeah, I really like the approach and sort of the closeness to applying state of the art research to real world problems. So I kind of decided to actually switch out of academia and start my industry career at Thomson Reuters Labs. Was there for 5 years as an individual contributor, and then I wanted to see kind of like widen my horizon a little bit. So I was for 3 years in two startups where I basically took a tech lead role, like AI lead, including head of NLP at a recent startup, and it helped me really get close to state of the art approaches and problems in the space. And now I'm back because I just kind of wanted to gain more leadership experience. I really liked working on how fast we're moving and how we're addressing like real world problems and working in legal and some interesting applications. So yeah, and especially kind of influencing like $1 million products with that 10,000s of customers. So this is kind of like pretty cool to work on the forefront of that.
Very cool. Amazing stories. Thank you so much for telling us about your background. I would love to hear more about your career journeys, especially as women in tech. Our audience loves to hear about women leaders and your tech experience. So, can you tell us more about how Thomson Reuters has supported your career development as women in tech? Maybe Hella, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, sure. So for me, TR has been super supportive from the start, like providing lots of speaking opportunities, like this one. So which gets you exposure, you can like kind of learn public speaking, etc. I never really felt like kind of, I was sort of there was even a thing about whether I'm a woman or not, like kind of we're treated quite equal. And like I feel like it's sort of if anything, you stand out. So that's been my experience throughout my career, like kind of because I'm good at what I'm doing, it's actually sort of more of a and it's a woman, which is unfortunately still the minority in a lot of tech settings. So, yeah, but more recently, I think specifically TR has been really good at um, upskilling us in sort of the Gen AI space throughout the company as a whole. So, like, kind of, it really helps stay up to date with current tech, etc. Like, we're really encouraged to experiment with the latest development, read the latest papers, and then include them in basically our work. So we're beta testers for some of the largest LLM providers across the board, and like for some of the models that are coming out. So we're really at the cutting edge, which really helps with the tech career development. But we also what I really like about TR2 is like we have like when I started, I had some formal training around specifically aimed at women called leadership training. So kind of it's not just a generic leadership training course, but sort of addressing some of the downfalls of like how we as women maybe don't promote ourselves as well, or like yeah, things like that. So that was really useful. And I find we have a really inclusive culture with a really good gender ratio in general. So that meant I had some great role models. So like the when I initially joined, the head of labs was a female. The current head of labs is a female. There's lots of leaders in the organization that you can kind of learn from and mentor get mentorship from.
Absolutely. Love to hear how TR has supported you. Mentorship is key. How about you, Grace?
Yeah, I can really completely agree with like what Hella shared, like TR has the really great systematic support and a lot of diverse opportunities. And among those, what really stands out to me is actually the people. So culture here in TR Labs is really based on empathy and awareness. So a lot of my colleagues are truly understanding what women can face in tech space or any like underrepresented group by gender or ethnicity or race. So it's about how we show up to each other every day. And I believe a lot of our colleagues and people here in TL Labs are really putting extra effort and putting conscious effort to bridge the differences and also support each other. So this sense of care and inclusion is what supports me for my career on my own career development here in TR Labs.
Amazing. Empathy, awareness, and supporting fellow women. I love that. Sounds like TR is a great place to work.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I love what you shared about just being excellent in the technology space. That's so impressive. So I'd also love to hear about the talk more about technology. So with the rapid pace of technological changes, how do you both stay on that cutting edge within your fields and in TR? Um, so yeah, tell us more about how you stay at that cutting edge. Maybe Grace, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so these days the pace of technological change is really rapid and sometimes it's too fast. Personally, I get really overwhelmed time to time. So it feels like there are really thousands of things we should keep up with, but I try to focus on two key areas as the must thing to keep up with. So first one is the staying up to date with the machine learning and AI research. And second area I'm looking after where I'm paying attention is keeping close eye on to legal AI trends.
Mm.
So for the first, the machine learning research area, I heavily rely on X, formerly known as Twitter. So each different community has the different go-to platform, but for us, machine learning research community, our go-to platform is actually Twitter. So whenever we have the new latest paper, we make a post there, and then oftentimes we even break down the complex paper idea into the digestible threads. So while I don't always have time to go through every new paper in depth, but this kind of regularly checking Twitter and interacting with the author directly really helps me stay on top of the latest research and advancement in machine learning. And for the legal AI side, I subscribe to the couple of newsletter in the legal tech platform or news website. So these are kind of giving me some understanding on how the legal industry or legal AI industry evolving. So combination with these two areas, so the solution we are building in legal as the legal solution is kind of not only innovative but also very impactful for our customers.
Love to hear that. Yes, you have to stay in the know in both the AI and machine learning space as well as the legal space. And that's great intel about X being the place that you most often look to. How about you, Hella?
Yeah, similarly to Grace, I also look at social media and I read blogs and see what people kind of, rely a little bit on my peers and leaders in the industry to tell me what is important because there's so much that's coming out. Um, but I also we have a really good culture internally, even like kind of to with various sessions internally where people review the latest papers, kind of share it with their groups, or I'll rely on my my team members to basically send them out to kind of look at specific areas and then bring it back and share it at least with my team. Yeah, so that's one thing, but one other key thing for me is also just trial and error. So like because one thing is basically looking at what people are writing about, but I think one other key thing is to just try things out. So for me, I really like learning on the job. So if I see something like a latest development and I'm not so sure if it's just hype or maybe how or if it could be useful, I kind of try to keep it in the back of my mind, or maybe there try it out, it depends. But when I then see a problem internally, I just kind of try to apply it there, because I think that's sort of really how you can you learn what is actually useful, like how to make it useful in your job. So yeah, I just like to play around.
Trial and error, absolutely. And even more to that, how do you encourage a culture of innovation within each of your teams, um, to encourage everything that you're saying, keeping up with that rapid pace and keeping up with innovation? How do you encourage other team members to be doing the same thing? I'll start with you, Hella.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of like, the trial and error bit. I encourage my team to do that as well. So we work quite iteratively. We have a culture of like, failing fast and failing safe, sort of. So like, it's kind of encouraged to, it's better to try something out and learn that it didn't work than like to, like kind of plan a whole year and shy away. Like, so that's something that we encourage. But we also encourage open discourse. So we that starts with our customers. So like we try to really release early concepts, get feedback, so from the outside, to make sure that what we're kind of building makes sense. But then also internally, like kind of if we're creating a solution, we often and early present about it internally so that we can get feedback from other people who might have a different point of view, who might have a different way of solving a problem, and that way kind of learn and maybe even rethink like the problem itself, like think on the fly. And so to kind of that extent, you can even do like secondments internally where, like we have opportunities to go to a different team and then like, kind of bring in a different perspective. So it's sort of that, quick iterations, interchange, but and discourse about those projects, and yeah, maybe even kind of bringing in outside perspectives of someone who hasn't been thinking about it the same way.
Amazing. What about you, Grace?
Yeah, so these days is the continuous learning is really essential, especially the tech industry. And I have to say today's learning is very different from before. So a lot of learning should be self-directed and also self-motivated effort. So as a leader with my teammates, so whenever I have a one-on-one meetings or even have a coffee chat, I really often emphasize my teammates to prioritize and also even defend our learning time. So in that way, and also more importantly, I try to demonstrate that by being an example rather than kind of encouraging them by words. So personally, I block my calendar really regularly, especially Friday morning. And then I dedicated that time exclusively for learning and engaging into the creative activity. And I also share those findings in one of the many TR Labs paper reading groups and then initiate the discussions. So in this way, I encourage the culture of innovations and also help create the environment where new ideas are always welcome and also explored and examined.
Such great answers. I love to hear about this culture of innovation and mutual learning and mutual support. Really exciting stuff. So at this point, I would love to take an audience question. So thank you so much for those that have submitted to our Q&A. Let me see. Really great questions. Thank you. Keep them coming. So here's a great question from our audience. How does TR Labs support with career transition? For example, people who have the ability to be technical and have lots of transferable skills, but perhaps not fully fledged coding skills. How would you answer that? So career transition, technical skills, but not fully fledged coding.
Yeah, actually, we have a small program for for that kind of purpose. So we call it Geek program here in TR Labs. So basically, this is more like a short-term internal transfer, and this program allows you to explore the new areas or new skills that you want to try on. So, for example, let's say you join TR Labs as the designer, let's say, but you want to learn about how to write a code and how to become a better programmer, then in that case, you can sign up this Geek program as the short-term transfer, and then you can join the short-term project and then working with the engineers and scientists directly. In that way, you can get the hands-on experience. So this is a really great opportunity to diversify your current skill set and also find a new area you might be more passionate about.
Maybe just to add to that as well, like kind of, I know a couple of people who are like, I know somebody who's a female senior architect, and I think her background was like biological data analysis. So like, kind of there's a lot of transitions internally, because especially in the space like legal, it's such a domain specific kind of area that you need a mixed kind of skill set. And so we have training for people like, especially now in the Gen AI space, that anybody really can try out. We have a platform where you can try out Gen AI skills and like and get hands-on experience. And we do consider, different backgrounds. Like while sometimes maybe on a it says like certain degrees or something on the job spec, there's different ways to get into it. And then on the job, like you can kind of branch out into different areas, whether that's through a gig, but also there's learning opportunities. So like where we help each other, we have like kind of types of hackathons or like sort of projects that we can participate in, and you can sort of get involved in other projects if you want to.
Amazing. I love to hear that. So lots of ways to get involved and to learn. So you mentioned the Geek program. I'd love to hear it. This relates to another question that we got from our wonderful audience. So can you tell us more? What types of programs does Thomson Reuters have for onboarding in the tech space? So this person is asking about returnships or mentoring, which I know you both mentioned, but anything else for programs that TR has supporting onboarding in the tech space?
Yeah, I think it depends on the area. So, in TR Labs, we have sort of like we kind of self-maintain a knowledge base of like sort of the different things of how we use best practices about technology and stuff like that. That we kind of like contribute back to ourselves. So, like we set sort of our own standards, and so that way, kind of learn, how we want to do it. There's mentorship, so there are some more formal mentorship programs, and we also on the hub you can like kind of we have basically like a career hub page where you can kind of put together like what your interests are, what your skills are, and then you can sort of either find like-minded people or mentorship. So like you can offer mentorship or gain mentorship. So this is more like kind of maybe if you want to grow your career. But for onboarding, we also have like designated people we assign. So I think when I started, I had sort of like 5 type of coffee intro chats with people in my first week, that are from different parts of the business, to just sort of get you started, have a face for you to kind of like ask questions and not get lost in all the like new thing. I mean, I came back, so it was a bit easier, but yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and also yeah, one thing I would like to add kind of regarding onboarding in TR Labs. I'm really proud of this. So I really want to mention this. So in TR Labs, we have really great onboarding process. So we constantly maintain our onboarding material. Is a really collective effort. So let's say, for example, you don't have a lot of experience working on cloud tool or AWS or Azure. Maybe you previously work on your local laptop or local desktop. You don't have much experience on cloud platform, for example. Then we have kind of documentation for different cloud platform we are using within TR Labs. So it has the step-by-step instruction you can follow alone. And also it has the small example you can kind of test as well. So by going through those onboarding material, you be really systematically and also naturally would be getting more close to the tech space and also getting ready for kind of jumping into actual hands-on work in their labs.
Such great answers. I love to hear all of the different ways that the team handles onboarding together, and lots of support. I love to hear that. All right, let's go back to our regularly scheduled Q&A. Lots more questions that I want to hear from our amazing panelists. So going back to cutting edge technology, we were talking a bit about AI. I'd love to hear more about how TR Labs is using AI to help solve those real world problems. So maybe Grace, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so we briefly already mentioned like we are using a cutting edge technology. So before jumping into the cutting edge technology we are using, I would like to begin with the what kind of problem we are solving, and then I would like to dive into the technology we are using. So we in TR Labs we work on a really wide range of the legal machine learning problems, and majority of them can fall under the broad field of like document automation and document understanding. So to share a more specific examples, maybe some of the example would be like drafting, summarization, document classification, name entity recognition, maybe layout detection, to name a few. So what's unique in TR Labs is we primarily work on legal data, but the type of problem we are solving are all very common machine learning NLP problems. So if you have previous experience on machine learning and NLP, and your experience and skill set will be really transferable to, and also applicable for TR Labs. And to solve this type of machine learning and NLP and legal problem, we use cutting edge technology like latest LLM model. So whenever there are new LLM model coming out, we always get the access and then we give it a try. So we proactively evaluate them to get a gauge whether it helps us to solve our complex legal problems. So these are the kind of main technology we are currently using under the Gen AI trend. And one last thing I really want to mention is this. So this is what I'm really excited and passionate about these days. So in TR Labs, we actively incorporate or adopt the new technologies to enhance our day-to-day work, especially for writing code. So GitHub Copilot or Klein and other AI-assisted developed tools are readily available in TR Labs. So it is highly encouraged for us to incorporate and adopt these new AI-assisted development tools. So by utilizing this tool, we can build innovative solutions even more efficiently. And also we are able to broaden our skill sets to stay ahead of the game.
Really exciting stuff utilizing AI. Thank you so much. What about you, Hella?
Yeah, I mean, Grace and I work in the same space. So beyond basically helping lawyers, understand draft documents, compare documents quicker, there are also applications in tax and accounting and risk and media. So we span a couple of different areas. So for instance, we help accountants seamlessly prepare and optimize tax returns for their clients. So understand, for everything from like kind of scanning the documents to really understanding what's the content of it, and it's all really aligned with the specific workflows. So like the underlying theme is kind of, we have knowledge workers who are usually highly skilled professionals, and we understand the jobs to be done, and then align it with how AI can help them in a way to do their work more efficiently. So other examples, because I know people are always keen to sort of hear about this, are help tax auditors find some key data points in bookkeeping or financial statements. So like Grace said, these would be typical like data extraction problems, but the key issue is like kind of in a lot of the areas we work in, we have to be quite precise about things, and like and there's nuances in terms of the language that people are using. Like a lot of the models and a lot of the kind of content, at least traditionally, was trained on like news and social media data because that was more available openly. I mean, it's definitely expanded with Gen AI, but like there's usually still nuances to applying like to things like tax and legal that are where we need to kind of adjust the solution, like if not fine tuning something, but more at least with prompting, kind of nudge the LLM into the right direction, but also really align it to people's workflows. So another example, in risk and media, which we also cover, is providing business and professionals with, software to accelerate their investigations. So if they want to, kind of basically do an online investigation on any topic or kind of a person, like, there's AI can help a lot. A common theme again is like natural language. So it's all about like understanding content, understanding like documents, and really putting it into the right place for people to actually action that, and to drive the right like sort of get the right insights for their work, and then so they can do the decisions.
Thank you both for sharing really exciting insights into how TR Labs is using Gen AI for legal and for analysts and for people's workflows. Really, really, I love hearing the deep dive. All right, I'd love to hear more about career opportunities within TR Labs. So we've heard a lot about the support that TR Labs has, and I'd love to hear from both of you about what makes TR Labs a great place to grow your career and make an impact on the world. A lot of our audience and a lot of job seekers these days are really seeking to make an impact. And it sounds like TR Labs could be that place. So in both of your experiences, I'd love to hear about how a TR Labs is a good place to make that impact. Maybe Hella, I'll start with you.
Yeah, let me just start with kind of in general sort of listing what we have as career opportunities. So, basically on an ongoing basis, we recruit applied scientists. So, people who are sort of investigating a problem, figuring out how we approach it with AI, do some research, data analysis, etc. Then research engineers who work more with the, kind of operationalizing the solution and all the things around that. And we also have technical product managers. So they basically look at, like understanding what is the right problem to solve, and then keeping the ball rolling and making sure that, we solve it in the right way, connecting to product and the engineering teams. And we recruit at various levels. We usually have some, senior lead and manager positions kind of open because it's a really growing space and we're heavily investing into that. So it's always worth checking out the website. And in terms of like, why it's a great place to grow your career. I mean, a lot of people actually come back to TR, including me. So, um, for me, it's like there's some great talent there. It's a very collaborative environment. So for me, that's always important to kind of, you don't want to be a lone ranger, like kind of your environment needs to be good. So that's sort of a prerequisite. But a couple of things that I find really impactful is like we have a lot of senior level exposure. So there's a good way to kind of move up in the company. So in terms of your own career growth, like kind of we get to really talk. I think in my third year, yeah, I presented to the board or something. So like, kind of it's like there's a lot of visibility, which I think helps you stay on top of like kind of what is important for the company, what is important in terms of like what the market out there needs, etc. And then like, kind of finding those opportunities to I think we mentioned a couple of times like you can move internally to like, kind of different positions. But the other thing is like, like I said, like I really care about solving problems that matter. And I think Tia has really moved beyond sort of the phase of curiosity when it comes to, Gen AI adoption into full like kind of beyond the curiosity into full adoption. So like kind of, and that goes not just in the tech space. This goes actually for our subject matter experts. We have a lot of lawyers and tax accountants like work for us, like who help us update our content. And what they do is like they share their ideas about how to make their life easier. So you kind of hear directly from the people who we might be building software with, like they have opportunities to basically submit potential business cases, ideas. There's pathways to do that, like, and I think last year we had over like 190 business generated Gen AI use cases. So I think that's a great way to sort of, really bring like kind of like new ideas and AI to the places where it matters. So, and like I said, we really look at as part of any project I work on, we really understand like what is the underlying issue, like what's the problem that we're facing. We're not really just coming in and saying, oh, like here, you need AI for this. This is your problem. It's more like kind of here's a workflow, here's a user issue, like how do we solve it? And like 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 I find areas like legal or risk really interesting because it's a different way of thinking. So I find it kind of like, and obviously it's impactful. I mean, like kind of we're we're impacting like I said, 10,000s of customers and like a lot of revenue. So like in that way, it feels impactful. But also, it's kind of there were projects where we helped basically improve the access to justice. So like kind of helping people get closer to interpretation of law and other things. So I think in that way, it's sort of good for them.
Amazing. I love how you said solving problems that matter. Really, really impactful stuff there. Grace, what do you want to say to that?
Yeah, Hella mentioned about really broad spectrum. And then for me, as an individual contributor, I would like to a little bit deep dive to individual contributors' career path. So in TR Labs, we offer very well-defined and supportive career path for technical roles. So for IC, the path includes levels like scientist, senior scientist, lead scientist, and principal and distinguished scientist roles. And also recently we made very thoughtful update to make our path even more granular. Like titles would be scientist one and two. So in this way, the recognition and also career growth can happen in a timely and also meaningful way. Then, but if you join the TR Labs as the IC or technical role, that is not the only single track you follow. So as I mentioned briefly before, there is the Geeks program. So if you find another interesting area you want to explore, for example, as an IC, if I want to explore more about product development and product management, and then I can apply for this program and then get the hands-on experience. So in that way, we can also continuously develop our skill set and also career path.
Thank you so much for lining out the individual contributor pathways as well as leadership. It sounds like there are so many opportunities that all sound amazing. All right. I would also love to talk about more about women in tech. So, what advice would you give to aspiring women in technology who want to make that significant impact, like we've been talking about? Um, how about Grace? I'll start with you.
Yeah, so my advice, and also this is advice for myself as well. So my advice is be a team player and also always look for a way to contribute meaningfully. So our impact in the team often comes from how we support the people around us and also how we elevate the people around us. And that may look very different depending on your own strength and also your team's unique situations. So there is no one size fits all rule, as the teams and projects are always constantly evolving and also ourselves are constantly evolving. So stay flexible and be willing to adapt. So if you focus on constantly making a contribution to the team to move forward, then you will naturally grow into leadership role and also find yourself already making a real world impact before you even realize it.
Wonderful advice. I love that. Be a team player, and I love how you said it's advice for you as well. That's my favorite type of advice. What do you want to add, Hella?
Yeah, I would maybe add, I find kind of like personally, like I said, we don't, as women, we don't really like kind of, shout out about our accomplishments enough. But like kind of, so I like to ground it in like actually what I do well, and like kind of, like sort of solving a problem and then talking about it in demos or something. But it's not, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, look at me. It's just like I let my work speak for myself. And I find that's a good way to gain at least maybe the respect that you don't gain as a male, immediately. Like sort of, you can just, so I oftentimes kind of, I mean, span like wear different hats. Like, I've been in startups and stuff. So like I like to kind of influence different parts, but that's not necessarily part of my role description all the time. So, I think working like basically towards like showcasing people what you can do on the job in the real setting, and basically working with them, maybe starting small, like working with some trusted members that can actually need your help. Like, so you identify that, you see how you can help them with your skills and your knowledge, and then sort of extending that so that you get seen as sort of like a valuable contributor. And I think that sort of really helps with upskilling as well, because you're exposed to more challenging problems, but then also to kind of grow your career and like sort of become a leader.
I love that. Beautiful. All right. So at this portion, I want to take some more questions from our wonderful audience. So we have a few coming into the Q&A. So let me see. I am going to start with this one since we're on the topic of women in leadership. Um, it's similar, but I'd love to hear more. It's such a great topic. So, what has each of your journey been like as a woman in tech leadership? And what advice would you give to those aspiring to a similar career path? So, leadership in tech.
Yeah, so leadership in tech as a woman. So one of the common challenges I've been going through very often in the past is being only woman in a room. So in TR Labs, we have quite well balanced gender ratio. So I don't have that experience that often, but in earlier in my career, that was very, very common. So I was the only woman in the meeting, or only one of the few women in the meeting. So over time, I've learned how to manage that feeling of being an outlier. So when this feeling creeps in, I pause and ask myself, is there any real reason I don't belong here? And whenever I really think about it, and as a scientist, I try to back up my argument with the data. And then if there is any actual fact or signal, but most of the time, answer is no. So it's just more about my self-doubt speaking. So acknowledging this feeling, but not letting them define our experience is really helping me refocus to the work and also the unique value I'm bringing in. So in that way, um, always it's not easy being in a minority and then being a only woman in the room, but always kind of think of whether there is the really a reason, and then kind of pause and think, and then try to approach it more rationally. Then that helps me really a lot.
Absolutely. I love that. Anything you might want to add, Hella?
Not a ton, but I think maybe kind of just like similar to what I said before. I think it helps to build your own brand. I mean, that's in general like kind of a thing, but like, sort of figure out what you feel comfortable with and like kind of what you like to be known for. And then basically in terms of getting leadership opportunities, like it's good to be like, oh, that's the person I need to go to answer that question, right? Or to help with that. Like that's the person you want to be seen as. That for me helps open doors and be seen as a leader and then get leadership opportunities.
Absolutely. Being a thought leader in the space. Amazing. I have another question from the audience that talks about the legal impact. So, how do you balance pushing boundaries of emerging technologies like LLMs and AI while ensuring real world reliability and ethical use?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
You want to take it?
Yeah, I can
You go
start. I
first.
mean, um, so for us, like kind of for me, I guess it's like it's a lot about trial and error and peer review in a way, right? So we have a lot of internal processes, like kind of you can't just sort of publish a new feature. There's to some extent it being like kind of a bit annoying to go through lots of review processes. But I think for me, it's like in terms of real world liability, let's start there. Um, we test out stuff, like I said, early on with customers. We usually gather real world data. Like that's what we have. We engage, like, let's say if it's in the legal domain, we have lawyers actually annotate some data for us, making sure like it's kind of like it's actually representing the information and the expected output that like they would want as an expert in the domain. So it's not like kind of some sort of artificial problem or something we're making up. So and then we have lots of test sets, etc. In terms of the ethical use, like I said, I think we make a big point that like every individual contributor has a responsibility to work within ethical boundaries, but also be responsible for their work, whether that is like kind of user impact, whether that is like kind of any potential issues we might be facing from like an ethical security perspective or so on. So I do think that our teams at least kind of take pride in that as well, and like kind of see that as an important responsibility. And then we have processes like where yeah, we review each other's code. In terms of like striking the balance, yeah, I think it's more about like quick iterations, right? You start somewhere, you make sure that's like within the boundaries of what is actually like we should be doing, but also you can then test of whether we need to even go further. We don't always start just with Gen AI. I mean, it's easy to oftentimes get to a quick solution, but like we usually look at a problem, we say, well, what does it actually need? And I've had lots of use cases actually where we push it back and we say, really that's a coding problem. Like you would want AI, but actually this is sort of easier solved with just some regex or something. This happens, right? And we are very pragmatic about that. So like, yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but
Really insightful. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for sharing about the innovation there and staying pragmatic while doing so. All right, one more question from our audience. I love this. It relates to technology. What advice can you offer for a job seeker for building an online portfolio to showcase your skills. Do you have an online portfolio? Did you use GitHub or other platforms? So, what advice for someone in technology trying to build their online portfolio?
Yeah, I think Caitlin mentioned all the good on points. Like, if you want to build an online portfolio, I think my biggest recommendation or advice is getting your hands dirty and then show it off to everybody. So, especially machine learning and AI community is very collaborative, and then there are a bunch of open source like projects. So if you find any of them really interesting, and then you can dive in and jump in and then work with other people. And also, if you want to take more like initiative, actually solving a new problem, and then you can kind of start it as something very small. So don't be afraid of starting something small. You can start it and then publish it openly to product, and then you can build the team that you trust and then commit from there. So that's my biggest advice, because this will show kind of your understanding and also your proactiveness very well. So personally, whenever I'm kind of screening applicants' CV and resume and background, and whenever I see those kind of contents, it is really informative and giving me a lot of signal. So from a kind of hiring person's perspective, it is very useful to show off and also display and also brag about your talents.
Definitely. Like Hella said, let your work speak for itself. I love that. Great advice. Hella, do you want to add anything to that question?
And maybe just that, like it doesn't necessarily, it really helps to be an online thing that you can access, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't think it doesn't necessarily need to be something formal on GitHub. Like, kind of you could write blog posts about it. So, because like the issue I face sometimes, right, is like I do my best work maybe in my current job because we do such cool things, like, sort of like, so, and then like kind of translating something is a bit more difficult, but you could also use things like writing a blog post, like maybe people, you might not disclose obviously IP, but like those are ways to sort of showcase that you're working on the forefront of what you're doing and you're like, doing diligent work. So I think that's a good one to also build a profile. And then, yeah, I mean, like kind of just, even if you don't necessarily want to show it to everybody out there, like it definitely helps us like kind of like, get attention. But if you're not comfortable with that, I think just at least having that in the back pocket, like Grace says, I always ask that as a question. It's like, hey, can you name an example that you can talk about, like of where you applied or solved this problem or these skills that you claim to have? I think everybody needs to have something like that. And you usually do. I mean, like if you're doing a job right, you kind of like try it on something. Like it really doesn't matter what it is, because just get started, do something, and learn from that, and then you kind of really understand what the skills are that are needed, what the problems are that you're facing. And yeah, I mean, for me, the presentation doesn't matter that much, but I might be advised.
I love that. So showing your thought process and having a log of that. I love that. Great advice. We have time for one more question, and I see a wonderful one that came into our chat. So can you share a time when you intentionally stepped outside of your comfort zone by learning a new technology, taking on a high stakes project, or advocating for yourself? Great question. Can you explain how that experience shaped your approach to innovation and leadership?
Yeah, I can take that first. Yeah, so I'm in TR Labs now, but previously used to work for a big tech company where all the projects were conducted by a really bunch of people. But relatively speaking, TR Labs is a little bit smaller than my previous kind of appointment. So when I first joined TR Labs, when I saw the smaller size of team, I was a little bit nervous because it was slightly different from what I was used to. But I fully committed to the new environment and then adapted myself in the new environment, what I need to do, what the team needs, and then change my kind of role depending on the situation. But now, after 3 years now in TR Labs, I successfully completed multiple projects with the small scale groups. And then now I'm a huge fan of working in a small team. So in the light and small laser focused team, we can make the decision faster, and also we can focus on solving a right problem, like right problems, not just many problems. So this kind of experience or new challenge also made me realize kind of um, new skills, kind of adapting myself, and then new kind of face the challenge and commit fully. So this is the kind of one example I wanted to share, kind of start something small, and then don't be afraid of kind of something different than what you used to.
Amazing answer. Hello, what about you?
I risk of repeating myself in some areas, but yeah. So like for me, it's kind of, I guess, one example that comes to mind that I was going to use in the next question, but is I led a project, and I think that was my second or third year at TR. Like kind of I was quite, it felt a bit more junior. I led a project, and I think it was like 4 different continents that were on it, like kind of individual contributors that I was sort of coordinating and leading the project. It was with really high level stakeholders, and that was sort of scary at first, because I'm like, well, I'm working with C-suite people, like, and I've just kind of joined industry, like I don't know what I'm doing really, right? Like kind of, and there were a lot of eyes on it. But yeah, I think it really helped me sort of like challenging myself. The leaders around me were like, if there's any issues, like we'll help you. They actually initially helped me as well communicate some of the updates in like some of the like weekly or bi-weekly update sessions to the sort of like find the right tone and stuff, because that's something that I wasn't used to. um and yeah, we just kind of I think in 6 weeks we built sort of a first prototype. So it was a problem of like adverse media screening, and like kind of, I think it was like from like actually learning about the projects, like working with people on the ground, so like those were analysts, to like kind of coming to a prototype in a really short amount of time. And so like it really helped me kind of learn how to coordinate and like kind of work with a diverse sort of audience, and then work with like C-suite stakeholders as the sort of the people we report to. And yeah, I think it gave me the confidence that that's something I can do. And it's scary at first, but I think you can. I was mostly just sort of, my mind was more grounded on the problem itself, like because it was so fast paced. So we were just like, no, we need to get this out there. I need to understand what we need to build, and like, and just kind of get something out the door, sort of like, and work iteratively, and sort of learn quickly. And that sort of helped me again, like gain that confidence as well. So for me personally, I like to kind of, if I know that I'm doing something right, then I feel more comfortable talking about it, like rather than like using a lot of like um like figure of speech or just sort of self promotion that isn't necessarily true. So, and I think that's sort of the what I use in all my projects now, in terms of like kind of like, okay, let's take a challenge, take something we're maybe not comfortable with, and as long as you're sort of focusing on the stuff you can do well, like solving the problem and applying your tech skills, I think that's shaped how I look at innovation and leadership.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. Really, really impressive stories, both of you. And I totally agree. The comfort zone is where you learn, but first it takes courage to get there. And then you build the confidence because you prove that you can absolutely do it, even though you could have done it all along. Amazing. All right. I would love to continue this theme of bragging. So, as some of you know, at Fairy Godboss, we have a tradition of asking our panelists to do some of this great bragging. So, as we've been talking about, we have observed that women often don't feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they achieve. So, I'm going to ask you to share even another. If you could each share with us an accomplishment, it can be personal or professional, something that you're really, really proud of. Hella, I can start with you, or Grace. If you
Yeah, basically just the example that I just mentioned, like kind of coming in a few weeks, like build something that actually worked and people were quite impressed. Like I think it, in the initial estimate, was like it was saving up to 50% of analysts' time, like kind of just with a little bit of AI, like, I mean, it was a few years back, so it was like, there was no AI there. And really kind of like I really personally like making that impact on the users, and I think it was one of the first POCs that was moved to production, and is from my understanding, part of it at least is used still today. But I guess, so I've already mentioned that. Maybe personally, when I worked at my startup, I actually left to kind of, to go on maternity leave for a few months. And I came back, and basically during that time, like Gen AI really kicked off. And so everything had changed. And I was just sort of a bit like, okay, that's a bit scary. Like, kind of, like, my job looked like X when I went away, and now I come back. The landscape has completely changed, and because in a startup, you really need to react to that change as well, like a lot quicker. I mean, everybody does, but it really changed the way we were doing work and even how my team was set up. I was looking after like a piece of software, and that software basically was going to be replaced completely with Gen AI, and so yeah, I was quite proud of myself because I think within a couple of months we basically had switched over everything to Gen AI. Like, kind of on the job, I learned all the new skills that were sort of related to that, and like kind of and making it work in practice. Like, I think I've fully embraced that change, even though I'm, traditionally have been much more of a planner. And yeah, we basically build kind of like a modern version of that system. Like, I think, and I mean, it's really a team effort, but like kind of I was looking after a knowledge extraction engine, and then I had just modernized it, and yeah, and then we modernized it again, and like kind of, and we're getting great results, and like could push out something really quickly that then drove a couple of funding rounds.
So impressive. Amazing. Grace, your bragging session.
Yeah, so this is the dedicated breaking session. So I'm going to fully take advantage of it. So I will share professional and personal both. So professionally, I'm really proud of myself diving into the new technology without really hesitation. So when ChatGPT came out, it was around August 2023, even before Gen AI wasn't as popular as it is now. And a couple of us in TR Labs, we determined this is the way to go. And then we form a small team and then develop the brand new product using LLM from nothing. And it was a really small team, literally one scientist, one engineer, one manager, one product manager, one designer. That's it. It was very, very tiny, small team. And then we're really all excited about this new technology. And then we really work collaboratively and also efficiently. So now, after a couple of years now it became one of the TR's major product portfolio. So I'm really, really proud of this whole journey. And also along the way, since we started this project as the very, very first project within TR Labs using TR Labs using LLM. So I also knowledge shared with my experience with many of other people in TR Labs and also beyond TR. So this experience also impacted within TR and within TR Labs and also even beyond that. So I'm really proud of this experience. And personally, I have lived in 5 countries in my entire life across North America, Europe, and Asia. So each move was quite tiring, to be honest. A lot of packing, unpacking, packing, and unpacking. But each move meant learning about new culture and adapting myself into the new environments. So that is really what shape who I am now and also how I work and also understand people here in TR Labs from diverse background. And I really want to highlight this part because this is really well aligned with the TR Labs culture, inclusive and globally minded culture. So at the beginning, we saw here in the call, people are joining from all over the world. And so if you are really looking for a place that with the diverse and inclusive mindset. And I can tell you, TR Lab is the place.
So impressive. Yes, that all of that moving is definitely something to brag about. Thank you so much. All right, I think one more question. This is our lightning question because we're almost at time, but I could talk to you all day. What advice would you give your younger selves?
Yeah, I
Grace.
can start. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my advice for younger version of myself, play more. So play more. So whenever I reflecting on my career and what truly brings me joy and fulfillment is the lasting connections and also people or I made kind of connection I made with people along the way. So take time to enjoy and have fun with people around you And this way you can build more meaningful connections. And these happy memories can never be too many.
Never too many. Hella.
Love that. Slightly related. So I would say be a bit selfish. Like I think when we're young, everybody has an opinion about you should or shouldn't do, or what a good career path, or what a good, like, kind of way of working is. And I think, I would focus your energy on what you actually love doing, because you'll be good at it, and and that will bring you joy, like Grace said. So, yeah, be selfish and
Be
focus your
selfish.
energy.
Yes. Focus, be selfish. Great advice. That's all the time we have. Thank you so, so much, Grace and Hella. Thank you for joining us and sharing such fantastic advice. Thanks to all who tuned in. As a reminder, we will be sending out today's recording along with resources to learn more about opportunities at Thomson Reuters. Be sure to check out Thomson Reuters' profile and jobs on Fairy Godboss. And we'd love to hear your feedback to help us improve future events. So please head to the Typeform section of the chat on the right and share your thoughts in a quick 1-minute survey. So with that, thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.